Well, a very, very happy Friday morning to everyone, and welcome to the John Kentera Show on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. Great to have you. We're going to break down that Angel series, get you ready for the Vedder Cup coming up tonight at Petco Park. The games tonight, Friday night at 6:40. Saturday will be at 5:40 in the afternoon. The getaway day, as the Padres will be traveling to Toronto with an off day on Monday and start that series on Tuesday. Sunday's game will be the traditional 110. We got a lot to cover today. Again, I would ask you, if you haven't already subscribed, it doesn't cost a dime. If you'd subscribe, like our channel, very much appreciate that. Continuing to build our following. And please pass it on. When you're out at the Padre game this weekend, hey, tell your neighbor, hey, you ever listen to Coach Kentera? He says, yes. Where is Coach now? Well, tell him we're on YouTube 3 days a week. Now, also, a reminder, next week, I told you I'm going to be doing games in the Big West Conference for the Big West Championships that start on Wednesday. So we'll have a show on Monday, and then we won't have one until the following Monday. We'll be off next Wednesday and Friday because I'll be in Fullerton doing college baseball games on ESPN+. We got a guest today, and boy, we have this guy on radio for years and years and years. It's always very timely when we have him on. And today, it's really timely. And the reason for that is for years in the press box, we have talked about Seattle and the Padres. Baseball said they were their natural rivalry. Of course, they've been partners over there in the Peoria Sports Complex for many, many years. But the joke in the press box for years was they called it the Vedder Cup, because Eddie Vedder grew up a portion of his life in San Diego and Encinitas, went to San Diego High School, even though he didn't graduate from there. He went to work at a local store to support his family, and then he eventually moved out of San Diego and eventually landed in Seattle. So with Eddie Vedder having spent time in San Diego, namely in Encinitas, and attending San Diego High School, and then ended up in Seattle, naturally, it became the Vedder Cup. And this went back and forth. I can't tell you how many years in the press box. And a man that was right in the middle of it and knows the whole history behind it joins us today. Our buddy who retired from the Associated Press, yet he's still covering a ton of Padre games for the Associated Press. Our good buddy Bernie Wilson joins us on the John Kentera Show. And Bernie, welcome. And I know tonight's going to be an interesting night because, like I said, in the press box for years, it's been talked about the Padres and Mariners playing for the Vedder Cup, which was an imaginary cup. Now they actually have one.
You know, Coach, this and here, first of all, here's my Pearl Jam shirt for those who need to see. It's takeoff of the old Seattle Sonics logo. And for those of us who grew up in the Northwest, the Sonics were an important part of our sports culture. And then as we aged, Pearl Jam became part of our culture, even for old guys like me. But yeah, you know, the thing is I know there's some grousing about the Vedder Cup, what is it and stuff, but it's an official thing now. I mean, people groused when we would tweet about it, but it is official. Came together in the offseason between the Mariners and Eddie Vedder, who, like you said, grew up in there, has spent some formative years in Encinitas. And I'd add to that, he surfed, smoked weed, and wrote some of the key songs that appeared on 10, their first album. But he tells great stories during concerts about his North County years and San Diego. But yeah, so it's official. It has MLB's stamp of approval, and goodness, Lord knows you have to have that these days. But yeah, it started up in like 2010, 2011. Dan Hayes, formerly of the North County Times, speaking of North County, who eventually bailed for Chicago and then Minnesota, he sort of ran with an idea from a blogger named Jeffrey Hancock. Remember when blogs were big?
Yeah.
In the Padre world, like in I guess the early 2010s, there were tons of blogs. I think those have sort of died off, and you know, a lot of those guys kept their presence on Twitter, but as Twitter grew dark and angry. I think a lot of them either bailed from social media or went to Blue Sky or Big Sky, whatever. But anyway, Jeff Hancock sort of came up with the idea. Dan Hayes and our other good friend, Corey Brock, who covered the Padres for years for MLB.com, they were, filling time during one spring training, probably 2011, and sort of crowdsourced an idea for what they would call remember Bud Selig deemed it a natural rivalry between the Mariners and Padres. Probably mostly because they share the complex in Peoria, and they were crowdsourcing it. And, I think Disco Danny Hayes came up with the idea for the Vedder Cup, which at the time was a mythical championship between the two teams. But, people followed along. And then, like I said, Disco Danny transferred to Chicago. I think he was with Sportsnet or one of those Comcast.
Yeah, Sportsnet.
Yes, whoever covered the Chicago White Sox. And then he's currently with the Athletic, covering the Minnesota Twins. He's pals with now Chris Paddock and, of course, Aztec for Life, Ty France. And Corey Brock went up to Seattle for MLB. I think he has pivoted to the safe world of corporate PR. Good for him. And so others of us kept the fires burning during the relatively awful decade of the 2010s. I mean, everybody who knows anything about the Padres know that it was an absolutely brutally awful decade. I spent near 40 years with the AP, and I wasted at least I'd hate to count the years of bad Padres teams. On the flip side, San Diego's been a great place to live and raise a family, but the 2010s were brutal until they got Tatis and Machado in 2019. And then, of course, they collapsed that year too. But it was just a way to fill a lot of time, both in spring training and during those long, awful nights at Petco Park when the Padres were charging toward sub 500 seasons. And plus, we're all Pearl Jam fans. Disco Danny is a bit younger than I, but we've all become fans. We've all seen shows together. Jeff Hancock is one of the coolest dudes you could ever meet. I think he's a lawyer in Sacramento. We met up with him at a Pearl Jam show at Viejas Arena.
Oh, wow.
In 09 or 13 or something. These things tend to fade, but I've gone to a number of shows with Disco Danny Hayes, including at Cox Arena. It was Cox Arena back then. Now it's Viejas. We even saw a show in Missoula, Montana, along with Tim Booth, former AP writer in Seattle, who is now at the Seattle Times, and he broke the story about the Vedder Cup becoming official. So, there's a fairly big subset of ball scribes who are Springsteen fans, and then a smaller subset who are Pearl Jam fans. There's a little crossover, but those of us who have chosen Pearl Jam, we stick together. And, have you ever seen Pearl Jam?
No, I've only listened to some of their music.
And I'll admit, they're not for everybody. I mean, my sweet wife, Kathy, lets me go to Pearl Jam shows. She's not into them. A lot of people aren't, but that's fine. No blood, no autopsy. But,
I love their music, though.
Oh, and they put on hellacious shows. And Eddie Vedder, who spent formative years, as we've said, in Encinitas, goes through at least one bottle of red wine per show, drinking it straight out of the bottle, sometimes 3 bottles. And when they played the Forum, I think it was in May, for my age, I'm proud of myself for being, it's called the GA Pit, where it's literally you're standing through the show. First, you get as close as you can, first come, first serve. But I got close enough to see Eddie he throws tambourines at the end of the show, but he handed some lucky fan a bottle of red wine, whatever was left in it. Maybe there was nothing, but I'm guessing Eddie, being a kind man, left some red wine in it for the fan. But they're great shows, and so we've all now lived long enough to see the Vedder Cup becoming an official thing in MLB.
It's really funny, Bernie, because I remember I could see you right now from where I sat, and you'd be talking about the Vedder Cup, and everybody would be kind of laughing and, running and banging shoulders and laughing about it. Now it's a real thing.
I know, and I don't think it's gonna, and I think it's still going to be a great thing. I remember on Twitter, these hardcore seam heads would say, I'm signing off now because I'm tired of seeing references of the Vedder Cup," and it's like, you're first of all, neither of these teams. Well, the Mariners have never been to a World Series. The Padres have gotten their doors blown off in the 2 World Series they were in, and they haven't been back going on, what is it now? Not quite 30 years, 27 years. So have some fun with this. I think the saying that needs to get going is, to get to the World Series, you first must win the Vedder Cup. And it's just something, again, to, baseball, it's a gigantic time suck. You spend a lot of time waiting around. Thank God for the pitch clock and some of the other rule changes. You don't have those 3-hour, 20-minute marathons at Petco Park anymore. But, it's a game. Have some fun. And just a warning, if you don't like the Vedder Cup, then block us or mute us or whatever on social media. Let us have our fun. And you go listen to Blake Shelton or whoever it is you listen to, Kenny Chesney. See, I'm not taking shots. I'm just saying we like Pearl Jam. If you like country, then go listen to country and leave us alone, and we'll do the same with you.
Hey, Bernie, do we know, is Eddie Vedder going to throw out the first pitch tonight?
I don't know. I will go early, and I'll let you know once I know. I would hope that he would be there, and I would hope that Theo Epstein would be there, because Theo is personal buddies with Eddie Vedder, and I know he has his phone number in his contacts in his iPhone. In fact, Theo Epstein, as Padre fans remember, started his baseball career under Larry Lucchino with the gutty little Padres before going on to superstardom with teams that have actually won the World Series, the Red Sox and the Cubs, and he's actually played on stage with Pearl Jam. So it would be nice, but who knows? And other people say, well, how can you have a Vedder Cup between the Mariners and the Padres when Eddie is mostly a Cubs fan? Well, he spent his, adolescent years in Chicago and has a strong attachment. And then, of course, his buddy Theo was the one who built the Cubs team that ended that brutally long stretch without a World Series championship. So it'd be cool if Vedder were there. I'm guessing he might not be. Maybe he's saving it. I know they've been playing shows down in the South, continuation of their tour, but maybe he's saving his grand entrance for the return engagements in Seattle in August, I believe it is, mid-August.
Well, it's going to be kind of fun. Mariners got a good ball club. I mean, they're leading just by a narrow margin right now in the American League West over our buddy Bruce Bochy, who just swept the Colorado Rockies. And we'll talk about the Rockies and Buddy Black a little bit later on in the program. I want to ask you, now that you've officially retired, you're still working a bunch of the Padre games. I know you didn't work the Angel series, but I just wanted to get your opinion. For all the years, you were down there grinding. When I was doing the pre and post game show, I was down on the field all the time, talking to people, building relationships and that. It's totally changed for you now. You just kind of go down there, get what you need, and get out. The way the rules read now and the way the teams kind of give you the old Heisman, it's very hard to build those relationships that we had guys like with Tony and Loretta and Caminetti and Finley, and I could go on and on. But how about from your standpoint? It's a little bit more difficult?
No, it's actually quite easier because the AP has reconfigured. Hang on, I got to plug my laptop in so I don't lose you midstream. The AP has reconfigured its coverage requirements, and the stories aren't nearly as long as they used to be. And most nights you don't even need quotes in your stories. So once I file my story and it's on the wire, I close my laptop and head to my beloved Orange Line to be whisked back out here to East County.
Wow.
Yeah.
But how about like the pregame? You always were down on the field pregame, talking to the skipper and, talking to whoever you could talk to.
If there's a need for me to be down there pregame, I will be there. If there's not, I won't be. Again, I use the word time suck. Most pregame is worthless. I mean, I get there in time for the visiting manager. I mean, Schulte does his like sometimes 3.5 hours before first pitch, which granted, he's the big dog. He sets the schedule, but that's a little bit ridiculous to, have to be there 3.5 hours before a baseball game. But there's enough people I know in the press corps, I can listen to their tape, or you see it on Twitter. But if I know something big's coming up, like if they're going to be activating a big player or something, then I'll head down there. But it just consider it, veteran move that I know when to be there and when I don't have to be there.
All right, Bernie, let's talk about the ball club. They've really had a great start to the year. There's no doubt about it. They're nipping at the heels of the Dodgers. Dodgers last night pounded our buddy Mark Kotze and the A's 19-2, took 2 out of 3 from the A's, and now the Padres a game back. But your overall thoughts on the Padre ball club right now?
It's a fun team to watch. I mean, as you know, I've never been a homer. I'm still not a homer. Full disclosure, my wife's a Dodgers fan. She grew up in LA. Would go when she was at SC. They'd go out on a sunny day and get $2 tickets out in they call them the pavilions. We call them outfield seats, and have hopefully they were only $2 beers. So, but I've never been a fan because you're not supposed to as a journalist, but I can say they're a fun, exciting team. And personally, they're doing better than I thought they would. Because, Joe Musgrove, a former neighbor of ours out here in beautiful Fletcher Hills, had the surgery in October. Unfortunately, had to leave that playoff game against the Braves and didn't get a pitch against the Doyers. And then Darvish gets hurt in spring training, should be back soon. I mean, that 24 inning scoreless streak to end their season was a quite brutal way for, their playoffs to end. And, there's just, even though they had talent, there are always questions. And, it's, I guess from a competitive standpoint, it's good to see that they've responded. I do think that there have been problems in that clubhouse over the years. In fact, remember the big kerfuffle in, 2023, Melvin's last season, when there were reports of dysfunction in the front office and a leadership void in the clubhouse. So there have been things, but I think this team has worked through those and they're motivated to actually get to a World Series, and this time maybe win it. I mean, a long way to go, especially with the Dodgers in the division. And I know people down here gripe about the Dodgers spending, but without realizing that LA is a completely different market than San Diego. And why do they spend so much money? Because they can. But so now it's on the Padres to keep going. And actually, this time, if they match up again with the Dodgers, try not to get into a 24-inning scoreless streak, because those almost always prove fatal. But it's a long year, as Bochy would say. There's a lot of ball still to be played, but they are entertaining at the very least.
I look at this Padre team, and there's a lot of things to like. Obviously, they've got an issue out in left field at some point in time they're probably going to have to address. But, we're sitting here getting ready for a big series against a pretty good ball club in Seattle. And everybody's going, oh, man, a game behind the die. We're playing great. We're going to get to the playoffs and all that. And then I think about Fernando. Every game that he can get through healthy and knowing that he's playing the next day, I know me as a Padre fan, I'm going thankful, because I've always sat here, Bernie, and said, if this guy could play not in 162 games, not even 155, play 145 games, I would love to see what this kid can put on the board statistically. And he brings so much excitement. But, man, long ways to go, like you mentioned. You got to keep this guy healthy.
Yeah, that was absolutely, when you asked me to be on the show, I did 2 things, Coach. I went to baseballreference.com and checked Tatis's career, what season he played the most games, and I believe it was 140 would have been 2021. And so, he's had injuries. He has the PED suspension. So, yeah, if he can stay healthy, I mean, people, again, it's way too early to be talking about MVP. Of course, Padres fans want to hand him the trophy right now. That's not how it works. But, I think, it's again, I'm not being a fanboy here, but it's good to see him healthy and playing, because to me, he's the Reggie Jackson of the team, the straw that stirs the drink. I know Manny's the captain and all that stuff, but Tatis has a vibe to him that, there aren't many players in the bigs that have that vibe. And, he hits monster home runs and everybody likes that. And he a couple of years ago, he was a platinum glove. It's still a hard one for me to, after all the years, just the gold glove, the platinum glove winner in the NL. He's capable of playing some great defense. And yeah, if he can stay healthy and, not miss 60 days here and there like he did last year, then yeah, he could absolutely have a monster season. That's why that one game when, what was it? Was it, God, I'm losing my mind already. But, remember he came out of a game or missed a game and everybody thought, oh no, here we go again with El Nino, and he was back in the next day. So yeah, that's absolutely crucial for him to stay healthy as much as possible.
Yeah, that's when Mitch Keller hit him on that elbow.
That's right. That's what it was.
Figured he'd probably miss at least one day, but he came right back the next day, padded up.
Yeah. Well, that's right. He had the big knot on his forearm about the size of a golf ball, and everybody thought, "Oh no, Bebo! There goes Bebo." So,
what are your thoughts on this pitching staff right now? Darvish had a rehab start the other night. They're hoping to get him back here very, very quickly. Not sure whether or not he's going to make another start down in the minor leagues, but just from what you've seen of the starting staff so far this year,
impressive. It's not a glamour rotation like the Braves of the 90s or something like that, but it's just a very functional rotation with some really solid guys, as well as a bullpen that on most nights is absolutely lights out. But yeah, that's sort of the unsung hero portion of this team that, it has got them to this point and is going to have to, the starters are going to have to pitch well and deep, and the bullpen's going to have to keep firing. But yeah, for instance, like Michael King, he, put a scare in me that one start. I think it was against the Rockies where he had the complete game. And at one point he retired his first 13 batters or something like that. And one thing we despise after 4 decades of scribing is our no-hitters and potential perfect games, because the pressure ramps up exponentially in the press box. But, he's capable of that. Dylan Cease threw the no-hitter last year, and they do have guys who are absolutely capable of doing great things every night. Now, they're not going to, and this fan base tends to get suicidal when one thing goes wrong, or, Bob Suarez blows a save and walks in 2 runs or something. It's a long year, but so far they've been impressive. But again, when you're chasing the Dodgers, who always seem to have pitching issues, the entire staff has to keep doing it for the entire year.
Dodgers right now, when they put Sasaki on the IL the other day, they've got 15 pitchers on the IL right now, and a lot of those guys are starting pitchers. I mean, they got Gonsolin back, and he's throwing the heck out of the ball so far. But man, at some point you'd expect them to kind of run out of pitching. Now they got Kershaw coming back. His last start in AAA threw like 6 no-hit innings. I don't know what he's going to bring to the table, but it's amazing. 15 pitchers on the IL for the Dodgers right now.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. I mean, our good friend Doc Roberts, usually an avid holiday happy hour attendee up there at the Leucadian, which you have family ties to. He's going to earn his big salary this year. because in the past, there have been issues with him being blamed for, bullpen collapses, questionable bullpen usage, etc. But there's nothing you can do about injuries other than, keep plugging the gap. And our good friend Mike McCoy provided us with the true answer: next man up. But yeah, that's a brutal number for any team.
You're talking about the other night, Bob Suarez walking 4 guys in that inning, walking in a couple of runs, and they took him out. And man, I'll tell you what, people were like losing their mind. They expect this guy to, be absolutely perfect. And quite frankly, up until that night, those are the first 5 runs he's given up in a save situation. The only other run he'd given up was in a non-save situation. So he blows a save, they lose the ball game. And, going back to Doc Roberts, I'm convinced Dave Roberts could go 162-0 and win the World Series, and people would still be upset because they didn't win by enough of runs up in LA.
Right. I mean, these fan bases can get very unrealistic and unreasonable at times. So yeah, we were back in Princeton, New Jersey, visiting our son Jack, whom you know very well, and his wife. And I had that game on MLB TV on my phone. Finally went to bed. I think they're up 4-2, and then I don't sleep very well, but I get these little MLB alerts on my phone, and there's an alert or a text from the PR. I'm on the PR staff's text chat, and something about, this was the first time Bob Suarez, my words, not theirs, has blown a save since da-da-da. And it's like, hold on a second, so then I had to, look at the Twitters to see what had happened. And it's like, man, that's a brutal way to lose a game. But again, it's going to happen.
That's baseball.
And, it's baseball, as your good friend Bud Black would say, and as Boach would say, another good friend of ours, there's a lot of ball still to be played. I guess this fan base has gotten, to expect great things, but great things aren't going to happen every night by every player. So it's unfortunate, but a baseball of any sport, the saying, you got to wash it off and come back the next day.
Bernie, a couple of more questions. Jackson Merrill, he's missed some time, but think about this. Prior to last year, when, he went from shortstop to a couple of days playing left field, they didn't have a center fielder. Hey, let's give you a try over in center field. And the kid ends up really, Paul Skeens had an incredible year, a historic year for a pitcher as a rookie, and he won the Rookie of the Year. I thought Merrill certainly he could have had a piece of that, but it didn't work out that way. But that kid had only played 46 Double-A games, and what he is doing, what he did last year and what he's doing now, really pretty amazing, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to. He's just, you can just sense that he's a different breed of cat. He's just got that vibe. You and I, we've seen a million ball players from high school through college into the big leagues. And he just, you hate to say that he's sort of a natural, but not in the sense of Robert Redford in the movie, but he just seems to be a natural ball player. He was born to be a ball player. He's smooth, he's good, he's confident, and to move. And he likes to remind people that, he was moved to center field from shortstop, but his first game that spring training, I guess, I don't pay much attention to spring training games, but he said, I started in left field, right, and then they moved me to center field. So technically he moved from shortstop to left field, then center field, but he carries himself with an incredible air of confidence, not ego, but confidence. And remember there was a game last year when the ball squad rallied and he had a hand in it, and somebody asked him, did you feel like you guys had to win this game? And he said, no, we wanted to win this game. And I thought, man, that's pretty mature for a rookie to say that. And then, early that season, he was waving off El Nino to make catches and stuff like that. He just, carries himself with the good kind of confidence, not the arrogant. I think Dan Fouts uses the term, bantam rooster type athletic arrogance. And he just seems to be built differently from mentally and emotionally. And it's we're all parents. You can tell good parenting in athletes. You really can. I believe both of his parents are school teachers,
right,
or something like that. There, you can tell what kids have had a really solid upbringing. And I'm not casting stones at anybody else. I'm just saying in this specific case, it's part of his whole vibe or whatever, that he is extremely talented and he's mature, I guess, is what I'm struggling for here. At what is he now, 21 or 22?
Yeah, he's turned 22.
Just belated happy birthday, bro. But yeah, for 22, he just seems to be very mature on and off the field. And that's the type of thing we notice, because again, baseball is a massive time suck. You spend a lot of time cooling your heels in the clubhouse pregame, at least those who go, and you just notice things like that. So
yeah, he may not be Roy Hobbs the natural, but I'll tell you what, his bat is Wonder Boy. That's for damn sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, let's talk about our other manager that always doesn't miss one. He's always there. And our man Buddy Black at the holiday happy hour. He joins us every year. He gets let go a week ago by the Colorado Rockies, and being a friend of Buddy's, along with a guy that covered him for years, I know he loves to put the uniform on and go out and play first base during batting practice and bounce around, and always upbeat, always able to turn the page, because it's tough to win a Major League Baseball game. But it was tough for, I think, us guys that know him really well, knowing he had really no chance to win with Colorado, especially in this division. So in some ways I was kind of happy, but on the other end, I was kind of sad because I know how much he loves being in a Major League uniform.
Yeah, I think there were two general reactions. This stinks. He didn't deserve it. It's not his fault. But then, like you said somewhere on one of the social media, Buddy's free. Buddy.
They did him a favor.
Yes, there you go. They did him a favor. But again, nobody wants to get fired. Nobody likes to get fired. But even when the Rockies were in town earlier this season, there's just a lot of talk about just what a god-awful roster it is, how they were coming off back-to-back 100-loss seasons. I mean, you just said it's hard to win a game. It's hard to lose 100 games. Well, it's very doable, because we saw the White Sox tie the record here last year, 120 losses. But coming off back-to-back 100-loss seasons, and Buddy is always peppy and exuberant and loves being there, like you said. And then, it's certainly not his fault, but that organization, people, even when they were here earlier, just saying just how backward and behind the times and cheap. And then a lot of the comments after he got fired was the guy who needs to get fired is their owner, not Buddy Black. But there are some owners in all pro sports who don't belong in the owner's suite. A lot of them, it's a hobby or a way to show that they have more money than humans should be allowed to have, and they spend it on a pro sports team, and that's what it sounds like here. But they're still attracting fans to the ballpark, making money, and yeah, it was tough to see Buddy go. On the other hand, people were asking, when is Buddy just going to say enough of it and walk away? But I think Dave Roberts said something like, not even Casey Stengel could have saved the Rockies. Doc was apparently pretty PO'd about it. It's a fraternity, they're bros. But yeah, it's one of those things where you feel for Buddy, but you also feel, hey, you're liberated. And I don't know how many years are left on his contract, but just sit back and enjoy getting those checks from Dick Monfort for however long they show up in your, the saying used to be show up in your mailbox, but now I'm sure it's all direct deposit. Just check your banking app every second Friday and make sure that the check is cleared.
All right, Bernie, I'm going to let you go. Good luck tonight at the Vedder Cup. I'm sure. Are you going to wear that shirt tonight, by the way?
No, I need to. You want another look at it with the old Sonic logo? That's one of the sweetest shirts I have. No, I need to be professional. I'll put it. wear my best preppy outfit, button-down shirt or something. I'd love to, but again, got to show some professionalism down there when you're waving the banner of the mothership Associated Press. So
yeah, put the collared shirt on and
yeah,
all that good stuff. I know.
I'll even comb my hair with what little is left of it.
Hey, tell the family I said hi, and great to have you, and we'll catch up with you before too long.
Thanks, Coach. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bernie Wilson, even though he's officially retired from the Associated Press, still covering about 80% of the Padre ball games. You know what's interesting? Bernie did it for over 30 years in San Diego, and we had him on when he retired. And the Associated Press is not going to replace Bernie Wilson, so Bernie's going to be basically a freelance writer and cover all the big events in San Diego until he says, "Hey, I don't want to. I retired, man. I'm done." But that's interesting. The Associated Press not going to cover San Diego with a full-time reporter. Wow. Okay, let's take a look. We got some things I want to get to. Angel Padres series. Padres take the final two games. A Wednesday night 5-1. Bogaerts a 3-run homer. Had a 3-1 lead. Taylor Ward had hit a solo homer in the second inning with one out off of Randy Vasquez. And then it was a tight ball game, even though when you're watching the game, Padres are up 3-1 going to the bottom of the eighth. It felt like they had like a 5 or 6 run lead because the Angels couldn't do anything against the Padre pitching staff. And then Brandon Lockridge, and I felt good. I actually tweeted after this. Brandon Lockridge got a bases loaded 2-run single, and good for him. I had talked about Brandon on the show Wednesday and said he's more of a fifth outfielder than a fourth outfielder. But man, the guy, he's trying to give you good quality at bats. He plays an outstanding outfield. He can play any of the three positions. He can pinch run, and good for him to come up with that big hit and put that game out of reach. Randy Vasquez, again, is continuing to pitch really well. Now, most of you remember, even though last year he had his ups and downs and was in the minors and, was in the bullpen early, and then they made him a starter, and he was starting here, going back to El Paso. I told you, I like this guy. I saw him pitch against the Padres 2 years ago, and I liked him. And last year, he got a lot of work. He had 20 starts, I believe, last year. ERA was like 4.87. And I go, you know what? He's going to be better this year. Now, I don't know where it's going to go. Like Bernie and I were talking, it's early. But Randy Vasquez has made a lot of adjustments for me. Number one, he's attacking the strike zone. He's not nibbling and falling behind and walking guys. The other night, Randy Vasquez had one walk. Now, if you look back at his log last year and even his first few starts this year, under W's, it wasn't good. It wasn't kind. But the other night, he ended up with one walk, 5 strikeouts, went 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run. The homer with 1 out in the top of the second inning to Taylor Ward. He hit it over the center field wall. Man, I thought Jackson Merrill was going to catch it. But Randy Vasquez evens his record at 3-3 and drops his ERA down to 3.45. I mean, he's doing a great job. The bullpen the other night, Alec Jacob comes in there. You see this little guy out there. It looks like he has nothing, but he's getting people out. Yeah, he's had a bad outing here and there, but at the end of the day, his ERA right now is 2.75. Adrian Morejon, who really I didn't think had been throwing that great lately, came out and threw a very solid 8th inning. And then Robert Suarez came in after the nightmare on Monday night where he gave up 5 earned runs in the 9th inning and walked 2 runners in among his 4 walks that inning. He came in, he got a gift strike on the strikeout to end the ball game. I think it was Zach Neto. Ended up with 2 strikeouts, lowered his ERA to 2.84. Think about this. This is how fine you have to be. Robert Suarez, when he came in Monday night, his ERA was under 1. And because he gave up 5 earned runs, he came out of that game with a 3 even ERA. Now he's got to go back to work and whittle it down again. But it's down to 2.84. Offensively, the other night, Manny Machado, another 2-hit ball game. He's got a 14-game hitting streak. He also had a couple of walks, scored a couple of runs, hitting 340. And now Freddie Freeman is up there with the Dodgers, is qualified, so he's leading the National League in hitting. Matty's right there with him. Other than that, Jake Cronenworth, a good ball game, 2 for 3, a walk, his 3rd double of the year. Other than that, nobody really going crazy other than Brandon Lockridge getting that 2-run single in the 8th inning the other night. So a good series overall. And by the way, Bernie brought up the pitch. I love the pitch clock because I don't like watching 3 hours and 15 or 3 hours and 20 minutes of baseball with no action. The other night, that game was played in 2 hours and 21 minutes in front of 43,766, 18th sellout of the year for the Padres. Amazing. I would imagine all 3 games are going to be sold out this weekend. I'm sure Friday and Saturday, and I would probably think Sunday it'll be sold out as well. Okay, let's get to Xander Bogaerts. Big Bogaerts fan. 288 career hitter. Hasn't gotten that number yet here in San Diego, but he's trending a little bit better. I think defensively he's been fine. I don't really have a big complaint with his defense. If you do, write me and let me know. Xander Bogaerts so far this year, he's played 42 games, 144 at bats, 243 average, 3 homers, 20 RBIs, 9 doubles. Okay, now think about that. Manning's got 3 homers, and Xander Bogaerts got 3 homers. Manning's got 20 RBIs. Xander Bogaerts got 20 RBIs. Manning's got 14 doubles. Xander's got 9 doubles. Okay, he's swinging the bat pretty well, but his average is only 243. His on-base percentage is 331. And I'm not trying to compare Manny to Xander because Manny's number hitting 340, his on-base percentage is a lot higher. But he's in the ballpark as far as, 3 homers, 20 RBIs. He has a on-base percentage of 331, a slug, which is low at 368, and overall he's at 699 OPS. Like to get that OPS up a little bit. He's projected by ESPN to finish with 12 homers and 77 RBIs. Now, I'd be happy with the 77 RBIs. I'd like to see more like 17 home runs personally, but I don't know if we're going to get that this year. The other thing that I've noticed on his home runs, he has to really pull the ball. He hasn't hit any of the 3 home runs to like left center field. He's got to pull it down the line. So I don't know if there's something to that or not, but it is what it is. Okay, that's Xander Bogaerts. Okay, Darvish. We're going to get to Darvish here a little bit and talk about what he got done on Wednesday night. First of all, this is always a class move when veterans do that, and they almost always do it, unless they just don't know the etiquette of baseball. Darvish the other night made his first rehab start. It may be the only one he has for El Paso. They were pitching over in Vegas, he was. And he ended up going 4 innings, gave up 2 hits, 2 runs, both earned, a walk, 4 strikeouts, gave up a homer to Colby Thomas, a 2-run shot in the first inning. He ended up taking the loss because El Paso ended up losing the ball game, but it doesn't really matter. But you bought the entire team and support staff that was on the road trip a catered steak dinner after the ball game. So that was a cool deal. But apparently he felt really good. He threw 51 pitches, 37 strikes. And, he may make a start. Who knows? He may make a start maybe first game in Toronto. I don't know. They haven't made a decision. I would imagine tonight when Mike Schilt meets with the media prior to the ball game, 3.5 hours early, as Bernie Wilson told us, which is a little bit early. I mean, it should be probably around 4:30. It should be about 2.5 hours before, but he wants everybody else, I guess, to get to the ballpark early so they can hear him talk. But anyways, we'll probably know more tonight. I mean, I think there is a really good chance he could start a game up in Toronto next week. And I was looking at his numbers last year because remember, he missed a lot of time last year with a variety of things. One of them was a personal matter that took him out for several weeks. Last year, he ended up making 16 starts last year. He threw 81 2/3 innings. He went 7-3 with a 3.31 ERA. Boy, if he could come back and pitch anywhere close to that, do you realize the shot in the arm that would give our Padre pitching staff? And I don't know, who would you take out of the staff? Would you go to a 6-man rotation? Now, I can tell you Monday, when we have our only show for next week on Monday, we'll have to talk about that because if he's going to start up in Toronto, and Stephen Kolek, we're going to get to him in a minute, continues to pitch well, and everybody stays healthy, do you go to a six-man rotation? How would they fare? How would Michael King and Dylan Cease and Nick Pivetta like a six-man rotation? Are they okay with it, or do they want to stay, every fifth day? That's something you have to consider as well. But that's going to be interesting to see when Darvish is going to come back. Okay, let's talk about the Vedder Cup here. Okay, the Vedder Cup starts tonight at Petco Park. Bernie Wilson gave you the entire history, and it's pretty funny because I can tell you, whether it was in spring training or the regular season, Seattle, hey, the Vedder Cup, the Vedder Cup, the Vedder Cup, then it becomes an official thing this year. Tonight, Friday night, 23-year-old rookie right-hander Logan Evans, 1-1 and a 3.60 going against young right-hander Stephen Kolek, who's off to a 2-0 start. In 14 and a third innings right now, he hadn't given up a run last time out. Complete game shutout in that 21-0 whitewash of the Colorado Rockies. So Stephen getting another opportunity, this time at Petco Park. Tomorrow night, Saturday, 5:40 first pitch. Right-hander Emerson Hancock, 1-2 and a 6.91, going against right-hander Nick Pivetta, 5-2 and a 3.05. Nick coming off a not-so-great start last weekend in Colorado. And then getaway day, Sunday afternoon at 1:10. Right-hander Brian Wu, good pitcher, 4-1, 2.84 ERA, going against right-hander Michael King, 4-1 and a 2.32 ERA. And you take a look at Seattle and the guys that get the big notoriety, Julio Rodriguez, great young third-year star. Not having a great start, hitting 229 with 7 homers, 20 RBIs, but he can hit the ball a long, long way, and he covers the ground in the outfield like Jackson Merrill. Their catcher, Cal Raleigh, a very well thought of backstop, switch hitting catcher, hitting 248, 13 bombs, 28 RBIs, and a guy that really had a miserable season a year ago, but I've always thought he's a good ball player. He's having a nice bounce back this year. Is the veteran left-hand hitting shortstop, J.P. Crawford, hitting 271 right now, 3 homers and 18 RBIs, and he traditionally has been their leadoff hitter. I know they gave him a day off the other day, but the night before he had a game-winning hit against the New York Yankees. And then after Sunday, the Padres, they'll be on the road. They're going to be in Toronto Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then they will be in Atlanta next weekend at Truist Field to take on the Bravos for 3 games before they're back home on May 27th, which will be a Tuesday night against Miami, and that'll be a brief 2-game set to start the homestand. So that gets you plenty of info there. Let's get to our mailbag and our questions, and then we're going to get to some standings and take a look at standings all over baseball today. But right now, I want to get to Coach's mailbag. Let's see what we got. The Friar fan, how good would this team be if we had consistency at left field? Hayward has to go. I think AJ is going to have to make a move. I think he's working on it. But again, what do you want to give up? And who's available right now? I'm sure they're looking at the waiver wire right now. But no, I agree with you. We talked about it on Wednesday. And by the way, even if you don't type your questions in during the show, type them in on YouTube, Facebook, or X, because we take a look at all 3 platforms and we try to get questions on the show. But if you're watching live, type them in right now and we'll answer them. But the Friar fan, I totally agree with you. I think they're going to have to find another left fielder. How good, let's see, Pods squad. The first series versus Dodgers will be insane, hoping the Padres can stick it to them. Well, the big thing is you want to stick it to them, but those games, in a lot of ways, mean as much as all the other games. I mean, I don't want to see the Padres, going into a Dodger series, not be focused on that series. And then if they go in and they take 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers, come out of the next series and drop 2 out of 3. Just one game at a time. I'm just ticked off that the Padres don't play the Dodgers earlier in the season. Of course, I'm a guy that I'd still like to see teams play 18 times in your division. But a lot of people like the wild card stuff, and it's kind of tries to balance things out, and I get that. We want to keep teams involved as long as they possibly can with their fan base. But man, I lived for those Dodger games all the years. I mean, those man, that's like a football game every night when you're playing the Dodgers. That type of intensity. But we'll see. I got to look at all the dates. I got to look at the dates. Louis, should Padres sign up Austin Barnes? Yeah, I didn't mention that. I was going to mention it when we got a little bit deeper into the show. Austin Barnes is a perfect backup catcher. But we've got two backup catchers, and they're starting catchers for us. Okay, Austin Barnes was hitting like 223. He's 35 years of age, so we'll probably sign him in 2 years. He'll be our backup guy if he's still playing. But I'm kind of anxious to see what happens to him. He's got to clear waivers. I don't know if he'd accept a AAA assignment. I don't know if he has options left. I mean, he may want free agency and go somewhere. Go over and help the Angels out. But Dalton Rushing, the young 24-year-old left-hand hitting catcher, made his debut last night. He had 2 hits. He had a walk, he had a couple of hits, and he scored 3 runs. Man, the Dodgers just crushed the A's, 19-2. My goodness gracious. There were balls flying out of the pavilion right and left last night. Dodgers hit 5, and Ohtani hit 2 and drove in 6. And just a crazy night. But I'll be interested to see what happens with Austin Barnes. We may know as early as this weekend. But they brought a guy up, and it wasn't that they weren't happy with Austin Barnes. It was they didn't really feel they could keep rushing down in AAA any longer. So he made his major league debut. He suited up on Wednesday night, didn't play, which worked out well because his family couldn't get there because he was told late Tuesday night, and then he played last night and had a couple of hits. So thank you very much, Louis, for the comment on that. We'll have to wait and see exactly what happens. Okay, let's go to the American League standings. As we go into the weekend, I just kind of want to let people know kind of what's going on. Okay, this is going to be great. The Yankees right now are at 25-18. They host the New York Mets. So Juan Soto is going to be greeted tonight by Yankee fans. Oh, my goodness gracious. I got to try to tune into this one. Yankees 25-18, a 4-game lead over Boston, a 4-game lead over Toronto, who's a game under 500, but they got some dangerous hitters. We're going to see them next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The Blue Jays 1 game under 500. They got beat yesterday by Tampa Bay. They're 21-22. You got Tampa Bay 20-23, 5 games back, and you got the Orioles. Is Brandon Hyde going to get fired? Everybody's expecting Baltimore to win the division and maybe win the World Series with all those young guys, and they're 15-27. And they're 9.5 games back. And Brandon Hyde's been their manager for a long time. He was there when they had all the kiddie core coming up, and he got beat up on record-wise. And then last few years has been doing pretty good. But now, man, they're not playing good baseball at all. Look at that. They've dropped 8 of their last 10. So I wonder if Brandon Hyde could be the next skipper fired. We'll have to wait and see on that. Now you got Detroit. Now here, I'm going to tell you, Padre fan, this is something you got to pay attention to. I know there's an off day on Monday, but Detroit is going into Toronto. And Detroit right now is one of the best teams in baseball. You can talk about the Dodgers, the Padres, and then I think it might be the Detroit Tigers. They're 29-15 right now, and they're going in to take on Toronto. Maybe they can, really work that pitching staff of the Blue Jays over the weekend and soften them up for the Padres next week. Then you got the Cleveland Guardians, 3.5 games back. Kansas City, 4.5 games back at 25-20. Minnesota. Now think about this. Minnesota has won 11 games in a row, yet they're still only 4 games over 500. It looked like Rocco Baldelli was going to get fired. All of a sudden, they're on an 11-game winning streak, and they're 5 games back with a 24-20 record right now. And then you got the White Sox and my man Will Venable, 14-20, 15 games back. Okay, American League West. The Mariners right up there, even though they've dropped 7 of their last 10. The Mariners at 23-19, Texas 24-21. That's coming off a sweep of Colorado. They're a half game back right now. Houston, a game and a half back, 22-21. Athletics, Mark Kotsay is doing a good job with that ball club. They're right at the 500 mark. And then you got the Angels, 17-25, 6 games back right now. Now let's jump over to the National League. So we'll take a good hard look at the National League. The Mets right now leading the Phillies by 2.5. Mets playing good ball, 28-16. Phillies really, even though they're 25-18, I mean, Aaron Nola's won like one game. He's like 1-6. They'll get that rectified, but 2.5 games back. Atlanta hanging in there at the 500 mark. And you think about where they started at 0-7 and they're 22-22. They're a dangerous ball club. 6 games back, the Washington Nationals, who I enjoy watching play, probably because they got a bunch of ex-Padre farmhands, but I enjoy watching them play. 18-27, 10.5 back, and the Miami Marlins 16-26. And again, when the Padres come home, their next homestand, they're going to have a brief 2-game set against the Marlins. National League Central. This could end up being one of the best divisions as far as watching the entire year. The National League Central. The Cubs have the hitting. Not sure they got the pitching, but at 25-19, Cardinals playing great baseball right now. As you see, won 9 of their last 10. 24-20, a game back. Milwaukee Brewers, they're not going away at 21-23, 4 games back. Cincinnati, I don't think they have the pitch, and even though I really enjoy watching Hunter Green pitch, 21-24, 4.5 games back, and then the Buccos are 15-29, 10 games back. Buccos are going to be here, by the way, in the next homestand. And I'm going on that Saturday night. I wonder if Paul Skeens will be pitching. And then the National League West. Pods a game back right now. Dodgers at 29-15. Padres sitting at 27-15. The Giants coming back down to earth a little bit at 25-19, 4 games back. Arizona 23-21. They're playing better baseball for me, even though they're only 5-5 in their last 10. 6 games back. And then the Rockies at 7-36. 21.5 games back. And Buddy Black got fired after last Sunday's game. And the Rockies went to Texas and got swept all 3 games. So Warren Schaefer, their new manager, who was their third base coach, still looking for his first major league win as a skipper. Okay, what else we got today? We got any more coaches mailbag? We got any more questions? We got any more questions out there? No, I guess not. Okay, reminder, I'll be back in Monday morning at 9 a.m. I want to thank Bernie Wilson for joining us. Some good history on the Vedder Cup. And again, send your questions in. Please subscribe to the channel and like it. If you like it, love to hear from you on questions, and hopefully I get you set up for a good weekend of Padre baseball. Should be a fun weekend. Going to be a tough weekend. Seattle's a good ball club. They come in with a narrow lead in the American League West, and the Padres right on the heels of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Until Monday morning at 9 a.m., Coach John Kentera, have a great weekend, everyone. Talk to you Monday. Bye-bye.